Guess what? It's cold, so we're going to try and do some tillage this morning. Dad's running the ripper up on some bean stubble that we had to do, and I've got the disc out. We'll see how this goes here. Hopefully the blades aren't still frozen up like they were when we tried it the last time. We're actually back in that exact same spot. That was several weeks ago. If you go back and find that video, the dirt packed up on some spots, like right there, and wouldn't let the disc ganks turn, so we couldn't do anything. So I think they're freed up now. We're going to try it here, and I don't know, sun's shining, so it's probably going to melt stuff out. We'll see how long we can actually work before it gets too slippery out, but maybe we'll get a little bit done anyway. Well, everything's turning. It's not muddy because the top's frozen. Got down to 21, 22 degrees last night, I think, so right now looks okay. Doing a decent job behind us. We'll take it. Well, we're making some progress. Things are still going pretty well, although you can tell where there's no corn stalks, or the corn was really thin, or for whatever reason, like this spot we're coming up to, kind of right there. It doesn't want to dig in very good, and I don't know if you guys can see it very well or not, but the blades just kind of skate across the top of the ground and don't really till it up much because it's frozen harder. The corn stalks kind of act as insulation to keep the ground from freezing real hard when it gets cold like this. And where there's no corn stalks, it's frozen almost too hard to be able to work. Fortunately, there's not a whole lot of those spots in this field, but we wouldn't be able to do any bean stubble today. I don't think it'll be too hard. So, well, we'll get done what we can. There's 46 acres in this field, marching over there to the road, and should take us, I don't know, 2.5 hours or so. This tractor doesn't have an auxiliary jack for my phone to plug into, so when I'm watching YouTube videos, can't hear. Gotta use headphones. On the plus side, I think it might make my microphone work a little bit better. I don't know, you guys tell me. Anyway, did you see that cool GoPro footage that I had? Here's some more. Pretty cool, right? Here's that shot again in slow motion this time. Well, I've almost made it to the road. I thought that GoPro was pretty cool. Got some different angles and stuff, and dirt's coming right at you in a couple of them. Pretty cool, right? Anyway, when I get done here, which there's just, like I say, a couple rounds left, I just talked to Dad. He's chiseling up north. One of our neighbors had stopped by earlier this week wanting him to come over today with the backhoe. Had a tile they thought was plugged up with some tree roots or something that he wanted us to dig up and help clean out because it was backing up into his basement. So Dad's going to go and do that about noon. So when I get done, I'm going to go and run the tractor that he's in right now, keep the chisel plow moving, and then we'll see how things keep going this afternoon, and if we can keep moving. And when he's done and gets back, I'll go do some more disking. Recently, I've gotten some questions about the difference in our tillage equipment, and I know when you're not around it all the time, it's a little bit difficult to understand, especially when I don't even call them with the right name sometimes. So I know I've explained some of these before, but I'm going to go over stuff again, especially since I'm going to be in 2 of them today, and it makes it a little bit easier to show the differences. What I'm doing right now is what we call disking. Now, technically, Landau, who is the manufacturer of this tool and has a terrible color scheme, they call this a vertical tillage tool. And basically, the difference between what this is and what an actual disc would be is the angle of the disc blades. So I think these are on maybe a 7-degree angle or something like that. Basically, how you know, they're not straight with the machine or with the they're not perpendicular to the direction that we're traveling. They're on just a little bit of an angle, and I think on these it's about 7 degrees. On a disc, that would be closer to 23, 25 degrees, something like that. So it's a lot shallower angle. And what that does is allow you to pull this tool a lot faster than a regular disc. But it's the same principles, it's the same concepts. That's why we just call it a disc. And basically what this tool does is size up the residue. So the corn stalks that are left out here, it cuts them up and it makes them smaller so they break down faster, and it mixes them in with just a little bit of dirt. We're only digging about 2, maybe 3 inches into the dirt, so pretty shallow. It leaves it fairly smooth. We probably won't plant right into this next year, but we'll run this disc over it again right in the spring, and it will create a nice seed bed to plant the beans into. So all it is 2 rows of those disc gangs. They're just blades. They're on a little bit of an angle, and they have a little bit of concavity to them so that they throw the dirt off to one side, and then the back ones throw it to the other side, back to the center, and it just mixes in that residue. There is that rolling basket there in the back. That basically just firms everything down, pushes it back down, and helps level it up and create a smoother seed bed. So that's what we call a disc. Whenever I say that we're going out to disc, this is the tool that we're using, and that's what it does. You'll also notice that I've been skipping passes. Only reason that I do that is simply to make it easier to turn on the end of the field. You got to turn quite sharp to turn around and go to the next pass right down, and this helps me keep my end rows a little bit narrower. And with the GPS and the tractor steering itself, I always know that that pass is the right width, so I'm not overlapping and I'm not skipping anything. Makes it easy to do, and so that's why I skip passes. No reason other than it's just easier to turn. When I get done with this field and I go jump in that other tractor with a chisel, I will explain that one to you. Done. Okay, here we go. See if our point's got any holes in them. They're definitely worn. That one's got a hole right there, but it's small. We'll keep running it. No big deal. All right. Going pretty well. Although it is starting to warm up a little bit and get just a little greasy on top. So I don't know how long we're going to be able to run. But we'll go for a while, I think, yet. Looks like Dad's got about 45 acres done, 65 to go. This will take most of the day if we can work all day, but I don't know if we'll be able to. So another question that I've been asked is why we do tillage on an angle. And you probably can't see it real well here, but we are going on a little bit of an angle. Let me look here. 91 to 2, okay, so not much of an angle, just a degree or two. But still, the reason that we do that is because the whole point of this tillage pass is to remove compaction from the soil. And when we're driving through the field, either combining, planting, spraying, doing almost every other task, we always drive straight, obviously with the rows. And so by going on a slight angle to that, we rip across the wheel tracks or through them instead of going in line with them, which just helps to remove some of that compaction a little bit better. It creates a different track for the ripper points to go through, and they kind of cross the wheel traffic that has been created in the past, therefore helping to remove some of that compaction. So the explanation of this tillage tool, so earlier we were looking at that disc. Obviously this has disc gangs on it. They're on a much steeper angle than the disc. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but they are. They're also spaced a little bit farther apart. The discs on this tool we call it a ripper. Sometimes we'll say chisel, but really it is a disc ripper because it combines a disc and ripper points in order to do a complete tillage pass, I guess. So anyway, the disc gang section of this is purely there to bury residue. So it sizes If we were in corn stalks, it cuts up the corn stalks. In the bean stubble, there's not quite as much stuff there, but it buries that residue to help it break down. The ripper points, which are behind it, which if you saw that clip a minute ago with when we were looking at those points, they dig deeper into the soil. So they're going right now 8 inches deep. You can technically on this tool you can run anywhere from 6 to 15 inches deep. We don't have enough power to pull this 15 inches deep. We can barely pull it as we are. Maybe we could go 10 inches deep in certain situations. But anyway, the point of them is to get down below some of the compaction, lift it up, and eliminate that so that the water infiltrates better, the roots can grow down through the soil, and it just makes crops grow better. Behind those ripper points, there's some closing discs, which basically are just there to help level the soil profile out, and then that rolling basket that you can see. And that is a knife edge rolling basket, which just means it's a sharp edge to it, and it helps break up some of the clods, level stuff off even just a little bit more. So that's what this ripper or this tool is for. It is a compaction removing tool. It pulls very hard and it goes deeper into the soil, but it's not very wide, so it takes a long time. With that disc, we're covering 25 acres an hour. With this, we're lucky to do 10 or 11. It's not as wide, and you can't pull it near as fast. So two different styles of tillage, two completely different passes. We don't do one or the other all the time, but generally anything that is going to get planted to corn next year, we like to run this ripper. If you've been following along with my videos for quite a while now, way back with the middle of harvest, I did some analysis on some yield maps. Well, that was actually this field that we're chiseling right now. And you'll remember, or if you go back and look at it, you'll see that there was kind of a line in the middle of this field where the north half, that way, yielded better than the south half and where we're at now. And the reason for that was because the north half got chiseled last fall, this half did not. We had a really wet fall last year, and when we were combining the beans, it was wet. We compacted the soil with the combine and the grain cart, and we tried to rip up the worst of it, but we ran out of time to get it all done. It froze us out before we could do it. It was very evident in the yield maps, which is why we're up here doing this field now. We started on the south side trying to basically finish what we didn't do, but we'll probably continue it all the way across and do the whole field. So some of it will have gotten ripped last year and this year. So there's a reason why we run this. It's a slow and expensive pass to go across the field, but it's paid back. We have certainly seen the benefit from doing this tillage. So a lot of people will talk about no-till. A lot of farmers do no-till, but there's not a lot of it around here. And I'm sure that if you committed to it and had the equipment and the planter set up to do no-till, you could probably make it work. We don't, and we feel like there's a benefit to doing the tillage, and so I'm not going to tell you that no-till is bad. No, no-till is good, but I'm also not going to tell you that tillage is bad either, because we're doing everything we can to control erosion, making sure that our soil is staying where it needs to be, doing the right tillage at the right time to counteract any kind of erosion effects. And in our soil, with our farming practices, this is the way that it works best for us. So no-till is good. In fact, we no-till our wheat almost all the time. We no-till a fair amount of beans. But we're seeing advantages to doing more tillage, and so we've kind of gone back that way in the last few years, and so far it's paying off. So at some point you have to balance the economics with the farming practices, I guess, and whether no-till is going to fit in your system. And if we're giving up 20, 30, 40 bushels an acre in yield on corn and 5 to 10 on soybeans, you can't do no-till. It doesn't work economically, and we won't be farming anymore. Somebody else will farm the ground, they'll start tilling it, so it isn't going to do any good. So that's why we've chosen the system that we use. Other people in other places in the country have different soils, have different tillage practices, have different everything, weather patterns. It all factors into it, and so it's not better or worse one way or the other, in my opinion. You do what you have to do to make your ground as productive and profitable as possible. So going back to my old videos from when we were harvesting the beans in this field, this also happens to be the same field where I lost one of them skid shoes or skid plates underneath the bean head. Check it out! The guys that hunt back here were driving through the field and they found it, brought it out to me. I appreciate it. We replaced it and I got a new one to put on there, but this way I've got a spare in case I ever lose one again, so that's good to have. You guys are getting like awesome footage today. The GoPro from the disc, I should have brought it. I didn't bring it to put it on the chisel, but that's okay. We've got some explanations on how everything works, and check this out. Watch what's gonna happen here. It's gonna work. No, I'm not touching the steering wheel. How are we turning? Maybe. Get there. There it goes. Did you see it? Hands-free turn. That was awesome. So, John Deere's monitors, the 2630 monitor, which we're running here, they come with a 15-hour demo of what they call iTech Pro. And that allows you to automate the turns at the end of the field. So basically, all I have to do is tell it which way to turn, and it does everything else all by itself. And it's the coolest thing. Now, we haven't actually paid for this to unlock it and use it all the time, but I've still got some hours left on my 15-hour demo, and yeah, that was pretty awesome. I think Dad's coming back to take over and finish this field, so we're making progress. I know it's hard for you guys to tell, but we're up to 70 acres done, about 40 to go, so that's good. Should take him about 3.5, 4 hours to finish this field, I would say. I'll have to get out and look at the ground conditions, but maybe we'll keep discing here this afternoon. So this is the last field of corn stalks that we've got to do. I just wanted to run up here and look at it real quick before I come up with the tractor and the disc, because we're up to about 36 degrees. The sun's kind of been shining, and I'm afraid that this is going to happen, and it's going to get too muddy because it's not frozen anymore. So I'm debating whether to bring the tractor up here. It is starting to dry off on top, actually. That's not too bad. They're calling for rain tomorrow and Monday, and so there's a pretty good chance that this is it, at least for disking. The chiseling, if it freezes again later, maybe we could do some more, but the disking, it's got to be at least somewhat dry, and if it freezes too hard, we can't do it. And so if we get a bunch of rain, that might be the end of the disking for the year. So I think because of that, and because it's not terrible, it's not ideal out here, but it's not terrible, I'm gonna go get it. There's 55, 58, something like that, acres up here, and we'll see if we can get it done. It'll take me about 3 hours. That's not too bad, and then we'll have all the corn stalks worked down, either disked or chiseled, and we'll be ready to go for the spring. Look, somebody else is running a power washer. I don't have to do it. I do need a phone charger, though. Something about taking videos all day, every day. Drains my phone battery. It's killing me. We got to fuel up this tractor and then head up to the field. We'll let him do the power washing today. Well, it's not working too bad up here. Definitely a little bit more dirt sticking to the tires on the disc and stuff kind of flinging back around. You can see it kind of going around the front of the discs with them. That's because it's getting a little bit sticky, thawed out a little bit. It's not as frozen as it was this morning, but for the most part, still working pretty decent. So we're going to keep going here. Hopefully we'll be able to march across this field. It looks like a really big field from here, but it's triangle shaped and it goes to a point there. So we'll move across it really fast once we start getting into the shorter rows. And 2.5 hours from here yet, I'd say. So something that I'm noticing in this field, the field that we did this morning with the disc, that was our worst cornfield. Like, it wasn't bad corn, but it wasn't very good. This field that I'm doing now was our best corn, and there was probably 60 or 70 bushel per acre difference average across the field. Basically what that means, and what I'm noticing now, is the corn stalk residue up here is a lot thicker and heavier, and so it's not mixing in the dirt quite as well. It's not knocking the corn stalk rows out quite as well. You can still see behind the disc, the rows are still visible and still there, where in the field this morning they would pretty much eliminated. So I wish it would take them out a little bit better. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. I can try and set the disc down some, but with this tractor I just don't have the power to really pull it fast enough if I do that. So it's better than not doing anything, because we are cutting the residue up, we are knocking it down, we're incorporating some dirt so stuff will break down. Just maybe not quite as good a job as This video is starting to get long, isn't it? I'm sorry about that. Had a lot to talk about today, I guess. We are down to 40 acres, a couple hours here yet, and we'll be done. And then I'm not doing anything else tonight. That will get us done with our corn stalks. I can't do the bean stubble. I don't think it'll be too slippery or too frozen, one of the two. And there's a big football game tonight. Ohio State, Wisconsin, Big Ten championship game. So I'm gonna go home and watch that. Dad just called me and said it's getting awfully gooey and muddy for him. He was starting to get mud packed up between the duals on the tractor, so he's gonna quit. It's definitely softer than it was this morning, and you can see all the mud starting to accumulate on the disc itself and those tires, but the tractor's not too bad. And I think this cornstalk residue is gonna help keep me up on top of it and stuff, so I'm gonna keep going. I'm not ready to say that it's too wet just yet. Well, I'm getting down towards the end. I've got 15 acres or so to go yet, but it's definitely getting muddier. I'm gonna try and finish, but I don't know if we're gonna make it. You see all that mud that's getting piled up? See right in there, more on the other side. Eventually that'll plug up enough that it'll stop the disc gangs from turning, and then we're done. It hadn't been building up on the wings at all, but it is now. And so I'm afraid that we're getting to that point where I'm not going to be able to do much more. Well, you can see the mud piling up on everything. I was just getting ready to call it quit because it got muddy. But it turns out I didn't have to make that decision, because we got a problem. I think it's flat. Yeah, so that'll mean we call it quits right there. Fortunately, it's on a wing, so I can fold it up and get it home. Well, I guess that's going to be all the tillage for now. So we'll have to see how much it rains tomorrow and Monday, and then it's going to get cold the middle of next week, like down in the teens. I'm sure it'll freeze solid. The question is whether or not it'll be too wet from the rain to do anything. So there's a possibility of doing some tillage next week. We'll see. It's not a huge deal that we didn't get this field done. There's only 13 acres left in it, so not the end of the world. Worst case scenario is we'll work this little 13-acre piece twice, because like I said, we'll probably end up disking all of this stuff again in the spring before we plant the beans, just to help level things up, create a nice smooth seed bed for us. So since we'll be up here in the spring doing the rest of the field, we can just hit that side of it twice. If it needs it, maybe it won't need it. We'll see. I'm going to take this disc back to the farm and park it. I'm not taking that tire apart tonight. It is after 4:30 on a Saturday. It can wait until next week, so no big deal. As far as that goes, I guess this will be the end of today's video. pretty good one. I wasn't expecting that today. I wasn't really expecting to put a video out today at all. So hope you're enjoying it. Hit the like button. Leave me some more feedback. I've been getting a little bit more of that lately. I really appreciate it. Ask me some more questions and I'll answer them. I've got a question about something on the combine that when I get back to the combine, I'm going to go over that in a little bit of depth. But yeah, I'm still enjoying doing this. It's been a lot of fun for me. So I appreciate you guys watching. Share it with your friends if you really like it. But anyway, have a good rest of the weekend. And I will probably see you guys Tuesday morning from Monday's video. So we'll talk to you later. Bye. There's where Dad finished. Looks like he left a little mud on the road.